Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Where has God surprised you by showing up when you felt in despair or discouragement? Hi, this is Jen. This is the Bible for Busy People podcast, and I remember in the days when a beloved family member was in the process of passing away, God showed up with unexpected joy and delight that we were able to share with our family at the time. We were able to laugh with this person, share memories, cry, and bond. It was difficult, but we were also able to process it in a healthy way together. Also, with other family members that I'd lost, I hadn't gotten the chance to say goodbye, and I could see God in all of these things. In those moments, it's not unreasonable to struggle with God, to feel frustrated or confused or alone. I think God gets it. The same God who became human and struggled with the divine plan for salvation that involved his own torturous death. But I do think God meets us there and walks us through it, sometimes unexpectedly. And as our hearts stay engaged, sometimes faith is formed and shaped there. Today we're reading in Ruth chapter 1. In verse 1, it says, "In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech, his wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. After they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud and said to her, "We will go back with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you because the Lord's hand has turned against me." At this, they wept aloud again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. "Look," said Naomi, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her." But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. So the 2 women went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them, and the women exclaimed, "Can this be Naomi?" "Don't call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me." So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. Naomi's and Ruth's situation was truly devastating. They had lost their family, their security, in some ways their own roles and identities. They did not have the provision or safety of the men in their lives anymore. Their futures used to be certain, but were now unclear. Naomi had already left behind her culture and community, and now she was readying herself to go back without knowing if she would be welcomed. It was really her only choice. Ruth's reaction is unexpected for a few reasons. She is willing to leave behind her family, community, culture, and traditions. But why? What about Naomi had drawn her in to not only stand by her, but adopt her beliefs as well? I believe Naomi must have held on to her own faith, even as a foreigner in a new place. Clearly, her faith and devotion stood out to her daughters-in-law. I wonder if her relationship with them looked different from what they had experienced around them. Moab was known to worship harsh gods, commit child sacrifice, and engage in shrine prostitution. I wonder if Naomi's relationship to a loving, guiding God looked different to Ruth. But even so, how might her view have changed when Naomi's husband, Orpah's, and her own died? Wouldn't that have changed her mind on who God was? Wouldn't she not have wanted to take chances with a God like that? For whatever reason, Ruth believed. She went with Naomi. She chose God. We don't know the details of how God showed up in Ruth's life before that point, but I believe that she had her own encounters that convinced her of God. In the story that follows, Ruth obeyed Naomi. She was led by God to exactly where she needed to be, in Boaz's field, and she was part of helping restore Naomi to community, faith, and family. She too is one of the 5 women named in Jesus' lineage in Matthew 1. Ruth wasn't a likely hero of the faith in her time. She was considered an outsider. But God's plan was for her to join her mother-in-law and become part of a legacy of faith. So I want to ask you today, when have you found your faith forged, even in difficult circumstances? Sometimes we want to dismiss those times or fast forward them or just get through them. But somewhere in the process, God meets us and strengthens our faith if we choose to keep engaging with Him and seeing what He's up to. So I'll leave you with that question, and let's talk again tomorrow. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume 2 things about you. First of all, that you're a busy person. And second, that you are in need of a restful break. Cannon Beach Conference Center is the place for a beautiful coastal retreat. Whether it's one of their enriching conferences or your own church or ministry event, you can find out more at 800-745-1546 or visit cbcc.net. Thank you to Cannon Beach Conference Center for sponsoring the Bible for Busy People.
Thank you for listening to The Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.